Good morning and welcome to everyone who is in the committee chamber room, as well as those viewing us online. Welcome to the March 6th Winnipeg Police Board meeting. My name is Colleen Mayer. I'm the board chair, and I'd like to introduce our board members. We have Councillor Evan Duncan, Councillor Brian Mays, Damon Johnson, Daphne Penrose, and Amit Kapoor present. I'd also like to introduce our executive director to the board, Jeff Wiggett. I'd like to welcome our new committee clerk, Brendan Harris, and of course, Chief Jean Bowers. Would you like to introduce the members who are with, or would you like me to introduce them?
I can, yeah.
There you go.
So with me today is Deputy Chief Art Standard, or Deputy Chief Cam McKidd, Kim Nicholson,
Executive
Director of Public Relations, or Corporate Affairs, yes. We just changed our title, so sorry about that. And then in the audience, I have newly promoted Superintendent Mark Philippou. And also beside him is Acting Deputy Chief Daryl Rapkasoon. He's acting for Deputy Chief Scott Haley, who's away at CACP. He sits on a committee. And with him is Superintendent George Labossiere and Tara Holoka, our Director of Finance. And I think that's, and Kelly Dennis hiding in the back there.
And then you have, I don't think you mentioned the two distinguished gentlemen in there, did you? Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Sorry, I'd like to mention you twice. Never mind, that's all. Okay, thank you very much. I wish to do our land acknowledgement that Winnipeg is located on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and the Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. Can I guess the first thing I have to do is have a motion to accept the minutes from the meeting held on December 5th, 2025 to be read and confirmed is the wording. Can I get someone to motion? Councillor Duncan, all those in favor? Carried. Mr. Clerk, I'll turn it over to you for delegations.
So we do have two delegations appearing over Zoom today. First up, we have David Grant to be heard with respect to the report from the Chief of Police and the Winnipeg Police Service 2025 fourth quarter financial report.
Mr. Grant, you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. And I first want to thank you for the opportunity to speak here and to thank the police service for the essential service they provide in keeping us as safe as they can. I see no mention in these reports of the recent water pipe vandalism. WPS is a police service, not a building design service. I understand that you were handed a disaster waiting to happen. We see no sign that the waterfall was fully investigated. Of course, maybe that's because you're busy doing it. There are means by which this sort of problem can be avoided. Why were these steps not taken, these means of preventing, not taken by the company that designed the rebuilding of your HQ? If the layout of water piping was done by a professional engineer, the related paperwork would have included steps to mitigate this sort of problem. The engineer would have done a thorough site inspection before you got the building to check that this problem could not occur. If the system design was done by a professional engineer and it ignored this danger, people make mistakes, you should take the first step in a complaint to filed with the PEGM, the Engineering Association. If you can find no evidence in your paperwork of the involvement of a professional engineer in this design, that indicates that violation of another provincial law. In that case, again, you should file a complaint with the PEGM and let them determine who is responsible. By doing this, you would also help make sure that no designer makes such a mistake in the future. It would cost the city nothing to do the right thing and file a complaint. Now, moving on. I see no income breakdown in your reports. I'm used to reading how much money you made doing background checks and that kind of stuff. I don't see that. Maybe I missed it. Maybe it's been dropped for this report. In prior reports, whole pages were just devoted to explaining WPS income. How much, I think there is one in this one explaining how much income is from taxpayers and how much from others, just the gross amount. And I ask a rhetorical question, how much traffic enforcement was done in this time period by uniformed officers? How much was done for you by the PE contractor? The ratio is sort of important. Traffic enforcement in Winnipeg depends largely on mailed out notices. It has for decades. The guy who killed Rob Jenner was a topic this week at a standing committee, policy committee. He grew up in a world largely free of in-person ticketing. I suspect he had no reason to fear a speeding ticket or a license suspension. When I was a teen, it was back in the 60s, my behavior was kept in line by the sight of police at the roadside. Even when I wasn't speeding, I knew they were there. Modern teens may never see a roadside enforcement operation. Even if in-person enforcement is not as profitable, I believe it serves as a deterrent for drivers like the one that killed Rob. When Winnipeg first pondered the use of photo radar, it was the consensus of senior WPD staff that they would lose a powerful tool in the fight against crime. Those officials knew that pulling over a car for speeding or a red light violation often led to solving bigger crimes. The backseat full of everything off the shelf in a drugstore, backseat full of cartons of cigarettes, that sort of thing. In the modern era, when your resources are stretched thin, if a speeder is pulled over late at night, would action result if the driver's paperwork was not in order? We're pretty sure it would, but that's something I would like confirmed. And I'll let you go. I don't mean to take up much of your morning. And again, thanks for the service you do.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Are there any questions from committee members? Seeing none. Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, would you queue up the next?
Yes, our next delegation joining us over Zoom is Vicky Poirier to be heard with respect to the report from the Chief of Police.
Hi there, good morning.
I'm just going to remind you, Ms. Poirier, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, I won't be that long.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me speak. We would all like to have impaired people off the streets. We see police service TV shows filmed in the US taking control of those who are impaired in public. Many sheriffs are concerned that a person may wander into traffic or fall victim to violent crime. Those police services on A&E care about the safety of the impaired. Police there either seek to get such folks home safely or arrest and jail them if they are not well behaved. This is clear on police body cams. How often does Winnipeg Police Service get such a Winnipeg person home safely in a year? How often each year is such a person jailed? How often is the insurance compared to the car's VIN number? Or if the driver even has a valid license? Not often enough, in my opinion. Here, if police pulled over every car that failed to turn on their taillights, or those that have super dirty rear license plates, they might find impaired drivers, drugs, or even dangerous weapons. Police who have people who have unreadable license plates mean the cameras can't read them either. Plus, those that drive around at night not knowing their taillights are not on are in danger of being rear-ended. They need a warning and an education about how to turn on and off their rear lights. When the dash is lit up and their daytime running lights are on, many assume the rear lights are also on. Too often I see cars dark with no tail lights. These people need to be pulled over. If there is a hint of weed or alcohol, they need to be detained and the car searched. Everybody would be safer. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Are there any questions from committee members? Seeing none, thank you and have a great day.
You too.
All right, we will move into reports. Report number one is the board chair report. So I have attached it here for you. I want to just start off by acknowledging my appointment as the chair of the Winnipeg Police Board by Mayor Gillingham and council at the council meeting on December 18th of 2025. I appreciate the vote of confidence in leading the board and moving us forward. I want to acknowledge the 2026-2027 2030 strategic plan that we are embarking on, and thank board member Daphne Penrose and our executive director for doing a lot of work on that and seeing us come to coming to see us through that last year. I won't go into every detail, but you can see there some of the activities. Oh, sorry, I don't want to be remiss. I want to re-welcome Councillor Mays to the table and also acknowledge Councillor Duncan being appointed vice chair. We haven't, we have received or attended, many meetings, as you can see. December 5th, we were at the Chiefs Open House. We had a quarterly meeting in December. We launched our strategic plan, of course, as I had mentioned, and several other meetings. January 16th, I think, is something really important to mention, is that the board sat down and had a refresher orientation session with the executive director of the Manitoba Police Commission. I think it was really important since we had new members. We started with a refresh and got ourselves aligned with the work that we see coming up before us. What else? We have reviewed by a committee of the whole, the February 20th, 26th, just most recently, the review of the quarterly reports from the police service budget, our business and audit plans for ourselves. And we also did publish on the website our business plan. I'm happy to report that we have also provided our fourth quarter financial report that the Winnipeg Police Service for the fiscal year 2025 is under the budgeted mill rate, supported by $1.7 million. And we will hear more about that as we go through the board meeting. Just a reminder that our next meeting is June 5th for those who are interested. And as always, I want to remind members of the public that you can always send requests through our link on the website. We appreciate hearing from you, your thoughts and your perspectives on things. The website can be found winnipegpoliceboard.ca, or you can email our office at wpb@winnipeg.ca. And that is all I have on that. Can I get a motion to receive the report from the chairperson as information? Damon, all those in favor?
Aye.
Now we will move over to the report from the chief of police. Over to you.
Good morning. So I've submitted the report, and I'm going to go over a number of items in there, but by all means, if there's questions on anything I haven't covered, please ask them. So in October 2025, both the Frontline Connected Officer Program and the service-wide digital evidence management system rollouts reached full deployment. So what's important here is that these technologies that we've deployed are the foundation for moving ahead with new projects such as the body-worn camera pilot project that I'll speak to in a minute, and embracing things AI, intelligence tools, and this will enhance our transparency, strengthen our accountability, and create efficiencies by the use of these emerging technologies. With relation to the body-worn cameras, we're targeting to run a body-worn camera pilot starting June of 2026. We're finalizing currently our privacy impact assessment and standard operating procedures. We'll be completing a consultation process with the community and our justice partners. We'll be finalizing our technical readiness and key performance indicators. And prior to that, we'll be training our members. And obviously, we will be informing the board of a number of these items when we've are taking place or completed. I do believe with the continued provincial support of our DEMS platform, we are closer than ever in providing body-worn cameras to our frontline uniformed officers. And again, I'm not going to speak to that part. That'd be getting ahead of everything, but we are making some progress with that. I don't know if you wanted to ask any questions on that. I know Potentially, yes, sir.
Councillor Mays.
Yeah, good to hear that moving forward. Can you budget how much and is that coming from within? Because if memory serves 4 years ago, this board passed, let's go with the body worn cameras, and council said find it from within, and the whole thing stood down basically.
You know,
So
since-
talk a bit about the budget.
Yeah, and I guess I would say we're getting ahead of ourselves. But having said that, the prices and costs of this technology have diminished quite a lot. I think that there will be some questions about how we are going to pay for it for frontline members once we determine the pilot and use of concept is going to work for our city. But I think it's not what it was way back when. It's that's when I say I think we're pretty close, because I think it's in range on a cost perspective, I think. And again, I don't have final numbers, but I can tell you a lot of this technology has decreased in cost. Also, we are in a contract with the province of Manitoba and Axon, and a number of those items in the contract will cover costs that normally we would have had to take on. So the environment, I think, is ripe for moving forward. But obviously, there's a lot of steps here before we.
But so exact cost of the pilot not yet known, and
There's going to be
some
no.
of the
The pilot. There's going to be no cost.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's all being funded externally.
There's been a contract negotiated that it won't cost our service.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Another area, and I wasn't going to touch on it, but maybe I will, because we've moved from the Taser 7 to the Taser 10. This is a significant change in technology. It increases our ability, range of when we can engage somebody with a taser, gives us more opportunity to engage them. There's more cartridges involved here. There's improved neuromuscular incapacitation is likely with the use of this with the Taser 10. So which means we can subdue a suspect more often than we have been with the ladder technology. There's also an accountability component to the Taser 10. From the time it's pulled out, it monitors where the taser is pointing, how high off the ground. So it records basically if we're using it in any way on a suspect. So that's something that's recorded. And also, when we move the body worn, or should we, it activates the body worn cameras in a range if the cameras were not already activated. So it's definitely an upgrade that we're happy to see, and I think moving ahead, it's going to save lives in our city. So I'm very happy about this. I don't know if there's any questions from the board on this particular item.
Chief, you had mentioned that, can you speak a little bit more? I assume that this is the technology with Axon, how the taser triggers the camera, things like that. Can you talk about that, or should we wait till you report back to us on your pilot project results?
Yeah, I mean, the tasers are, so we haven't implemented the Taser 10. There has to be training, so that's coming. We've procured the devices. But yeah, it's all based on this platform that it's digital evidence is all captured in one area, and we're able to analyze and record a lot of things such as tasers, which is now independently captured. So it just streamlines a lot of different data components that we have for us.
Seeing no other questions,
Okay.
carry on.
So moving on, I just wanted to quickly touch base on community engagement. I recently attended the MKO's, the number of members in our Indigenous Relations Advisor, Sheila North, the MKO Assembly on Emergency Management. So our purpose in attending was to share how the WPS and many of our units work with their leadership in keeping First Nations people safe in our city when they've been evacuated from their home communities. So that was a very a good engagement, and they noted that it was good to hear they weren't, actually aware of a lot of the things that we were doing. So they made a comment that was good to hear. There's been some, continued work with that. We've since followed up since that meeting. Grand Chief Seti indicated that this is the first time a chief of police has attended one of their assemblies, and so I was honored to attend that. Further to the community engagement, it's in my report here with some lovely photographs, and I think the photos speak of words. And I've attended many events, and so has, as you can see here, and so has our community relations people. They've been very busy. They've attended over 47 events within the community and supporting different community initiatives. You can see there's a long list here of items or different events that they've attended to, if it's community events or schools or whatnot. They've been very busy with the community, engaging the community. And then I'm going to go to our special events. So our special events unit and the community relations division, as well as the community support units in the various uniform divisions, continue to adjust to the ever increasing number of public assemblies, rallies, and protests being held in our city. Our members spend a considerable amount of time during their day working with organizations in an attempt to ensure these events occur in a peaceful and lawful manner. So again, the numbers that we have attended are there. This is something that is definitely we pay a close attention to ensure that these assemblies and rallies are safe and no one gets hurt. So that's something we will continue to take part in as this year moves forward.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Not gonna ask questions.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Chief, you had mentioned that I believe you used the word a lot of significant time by your members is spent with this. Do you have a number that correlates that time when it comes to expense that the department's incurring attending to these rallies and protests?
So I can tell you with regards to Q4, there was 3,846 hours of police resource time contributed to that, to special events, to rallies. Again, that's a significant amount. I don't have the exact number in our budget cost as far as enforcing these initiatives. It does. So actually, for the total for this year, I do have the number of events is 15,000 hours. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So 15,000 hours we have spent on special events. So I don't have the exact costing for that, though. That's something I can get for you if you wish, but it'll be significant.
Sorry, continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So 15,000 hours spent on rallies and protests. Does the department know how many of those are permitted?
Again, I can say some are permitted and some have not received the proper permits to hold those rallies.
Okay, so if I may, Madam Chair, what would the process be for unpermitted rallies and protests that are consuming 15,000 hours of police resources?
Well, again, they're not all unpermitted. So some do receive permits. We do have our PLT and our community relations meet with when we can meet with the leaders and organizers of these different groups and advise them of the rules and what's needed to protect them. Obviously, there's insurance, those types of things. again, a lot of times they do retain the proper permits, but there are times that they don't. Again, I'd have to find out that number. But again, we do attend to ensure, that their safety. I know the last one at Dollarama, again, we attended that to ensure the safety. There was people on the roadway, and I don't believe that that specific one had a permit. But we still have a duty to ensure the safety of the public.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I would be interested in getting some of those numbers back to know how many unpermitted and what the exact expense we are on permitted and unpermitted protests and rallies.
Yeah, thank you.
you.
And that's fine. We'll make note of that to talk about that the next time we get together to get some information. I assume that you attend these, sometimes you know that they're permitted, sometimes you don't till after the fact. So you can talk about some of that process of when you have access to that information when we talk about it next time.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
You can carry on with your report if you have more. Yep.
I do. So just on collaboration. So as you know, there was a recent news conference with the mayor, the justice minister, and Canada's fentanyl czar, and the newly announced Manitoba Organized Crime Drug Trafficking Task Force. So again, this is just something again that we feel as a Winnipeg Police Service that we need to collaborate with our partners in the province to ensure that we're focusing on organized crime and that we are having success with that. So together we are stronger, definitely, and we will continue working with our partners on this organized task force. I don't know if there's a question on that. Something I'm going to spend a little bit of time on then is I have indicated that since the arrest of a number of our members, we, myself and my executive, we've taken steps in our leadership to ensure that there's accountability and transparency in our organization. Since becoming chief, one of my priorities has been, strengthening accountability across the Winnipeg Police Service. And accountability starts with leadership and clear expectations. So the service has moved on 10 actions to strengthen accountability and public trust. So number one is strengthening leadership accountability. I conducted strategic planning sessions with our executive management team. I clarified leadership roles, responsibilities, and performance expectations. Reassigned executive portfolios to strengthen oversight and operational focus. And also, I've had our senior members or managers meet with all their members within their respective divisions, reaffirming our standards as a service and expectations of professionalism and integrity within our ranks. Number two, I've expanded the professional standards oversight. I've increased the professional standards unit by adding 3 additional investigators, ensuring complaints and misconduct investigations are handled thoroughly and promptly, and reinforcing the expectation that members who fail to meet our standards will be held accountable. Number 3, I've created a structural accountability within our operations, decentralizing our non-emergency reporting functions to divisional commanders. That's our reporting units, virtual police response, telephone reporting, and our report cars. So what this does is it ensures district commanders are directly accountable for service delivery and resource management for our city. So what that means is to ensure that we're getting to these calls that are waiting for service in a more timely manner. And I can speak to that. I'll speak to some of these outcomes in a minute. Number 4, improving transparency with the public. So I have since met with Justice Policing Public Safety Branch to discuss plans for Manitoba's Police Service Act to allow for greater transparency as it is essential to maintaining public trust. So those conversations are ongoing. I've been having monthly meetings with the public safety branch. And I believe that this step will increase transparency and help rebuild public trust in policing. Number 5, established clear performance expectations. So senior leadership has helped develop key performance indicators or KPIs to focus on member accountability, attendance and time bank management, workplace policy compliance, supervisor accountability through our professional development plans and our performance improvement plans. And this approach ensures accountability at every level of our organization. Number 6, using data to measure performance. So we've implemented automated monthly productivity metrics and reporting to myself and my executive. Creating dashboards accessible to executive management and divisional commanders. And supervisors now have the real-time performance data to guide their teams and address issues quickly. This is if people aren't meeting our standards as far as going to calls or and a number of other things, but that is reported monthly now directly to the executive. Leveraging technology for accountability. Again, these key initiatives, some I've spoken of, the connected officer, mobile devices, or digital notes and evidence capture, digital evidence management system with secure audit trails and direct sharing with prosecutions, electronic ticketing to improve data integrity and reduce human error, planning for the body-worn camera pilot project to increase transparency and public confidence, and exploring 24/7 cybersecurity monitoring to detect unauthorized use of our databases, access or misuse of our databases. Those are ongoing. Number 8, developing accountable leaders. So we've introduced our lead training to all our frontline supervisors and also our civilian staff. So anybody who supervises somebody is to take this. It's an 8-hour course, and it focuses on leadership development for supervisors, balancing empathy with performance expectations, building leaders who reinforce accountability with their teams. I can tell you that all sworn supervisors within the WPS have taken this course. And 88 civilian supervisors are in the process of taking this course. So there's been quite a few sessions taking place, right? And it's all levels of the service. The executive participates. I think I've opened almost all of them, if maybe 1 or 2 I missed, but definitely it's been received really well by members. This is something in their surveys that members were also speaking about on, more tools so that we can hold people, not so much to accountable, but also to make people as, to better and to make them good as they can be. And also so that we're not getting into situations, like we've seen here recently with the rest of our members, that we can take some steps to ensure that, if people are going the wrong way, we can step in and try to, avert that. So the training, like I said, has been accepted really well by our membership. And again, that's just, we're going to continue on with that, making sure our supervisors have the skills and the tools they need to lead our members. Number 9, supporting member wellness. So accountability also means supporting our members so they can perform professionally. So we've expanded our behavioral health, or in the process with a second mental health clinician. We also have early intervention and wellness monitoring systems. And that's, we can get a flag for someone potentially to do a check-in to see, we're going to a lot of high stress incidents. We can do a check-in to see if they're okay. Other things, if they're not, showing up for work or late, that if we can flag that. And just have that conversation with them to see if there's something going on that, or maybe on a personal level that they may need support from our behavioral health. So that's something that we're taking very serious. We did put on hosted the emotional wear and tear training led by a trauma expert. And I know some of you attended that. We will continue with getting people from outside the service with different specialty and expertise to help with our members' well-being. And that'll be ongoing. And then finally, I know I'm talking a lot, reinforcing integrity through investigation. So again, this is a continued commitment through internal investigations and discipline, and continued cooperation with the independent investigation unit when there are investigations. Obviously, that's something that we're committed to. So some early results of some of these actions, and I can say we've seen a 58% increase in patrol productivity on lower priority calls. Well, that's significant. I don't think the service has ever seen something like that. That means those calls that are waiting in the queue are getting 58% increase in their productivity. That means we're getting the calls sooner, and also a 17% increase in productivity in proactive policing activity. So that shows that I think we're a healthier organization, and we're making strides. We're going in the right direction with a number of these improvements and accountability actions. So I think we're showing a greater operational accountability and better use of our resources. Again, our focus is to support our members, recognize good work when there's good work. That's important. Measure performance, and also enforce our standards, and ensure that everyone in our organization is meeting, is working with integrity and meeting the standards that are very important to public trust. So I'm going to stop there and take any questions.
Thanks. Thank you for that. Very interesting, and I applaud you for taking the initiative around strengthening accountability in your action plan. Do you have any kind of a formal way on your action plan to begin to monitor the implementation and evaluate whether or not its intended purpose is achieving what you hope to achieve? Do you have that mapped out yet? And what does the reporting look like on that?
So, and these are some of the early results that we are tracking. So we're tracking it by calls for service, that what our queue is looking like. We're also track how many behavioral health interactions there are, how many of our members are requiring services, and we don't have the information, but the services of our psychologist. So we track that. We'll do internal surveys to try to get the feel of the organization again. After this has gone on a while, we also track. We track how many complaints we get to our PSU. One thing we don't do very well is we don't track all the numerous good things that we hear about from the public, and that's kind of something that's a miss on us, because like sergeants get them, the supervisors on the street get compliments. We get things. Obviously, we hold those in the executive, but often I'll even get an email, oh, how great someone did, and we need to track that too, because there is a lot of great work out there. Mm-hmm. Our members just recently saved. I went to a call. I won't get into it, but saved. The ER doctor said basically saved that person's life by the fast action that they took and the care they took. So that's important. So yes, accountability is important, but like I said, also the good work that's done by our members every day And the vast majority of our members are work with great integrity and commitment to the city and want to see us a city.
Yeah, and I think that, by way of your action plan, and we've all seen through our careers, I'm sure a lot of plans that sit on the shelf. So that's why I think it's so important that you are doing some tracking of that and getting back to the public about this is what we're doing, this is the progress, this is the work we still have left to do. Because I think it will help the public begin to understand that you're moving in a direction that is positive, and or when you see something that you need to fix, you're on it and you're responding to that. So that's why I think it's important that there's that continued conversation with the community about, how are we doing and how do we achieve this, and really tracking it in a way that is meaningful so that they can see it too. So yeah, good initiative on starting to really look at this stuff and being able to provide that information back to the community in a meaningful way that says this was our plan. This is where we're at with it now. So,
And it is a business item in our business plan.
yeah. So,
Any other questions or anything further? Can I get a motion to receive the report from the chief? Amit? All those in favor? Okay. Now we're going to move on to the report of the executive director to the board.
Thank you. So there was a written report attached to the agenda there with a listing of some of the activities of board staff over the last several months. I'll just quickly touch on a few things. I've had the benefit lately of being invited to a few community events being put on or being collaboratively put on by organizations that engaged with the board through our consultation process last year. So this past week actually has been the John Howard Society Week. They've had a week-long event, sort of panel conference on the topic of bail reform and the impacts on the criminal justice system. Recently one as well put on by Canada's Black Justice Strategy on the implementation and recommendations there that apply to policing that I think really helpful in understanding some community perspectives when it comes time to consider the implementation of race-based data collection and policy and governance on that. Some others, the Manitoba Bar Association recently put on an event regarding the recently enacted Clare's Law. So that's the reporting of information regarding intimate violence for people in relationships to seek that out. And again, how that impacts the police service and justice system. In the last couple of months, I have been accepted as a representative of the board to both the Manitoba and Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police. Again, good opportunities for learning there, seeing some best practices across Manitoba and the country to help inform some of the work that the board produces and guide the execution of our business plan, which I'll talk about later. As well, some work being undertaken to review the board's rules of practice and procedure to make the board a little more accessible to individuals and organizations that want to have input either at these public meetings or elsewhere. As well, just highlight a couple of things in the months ahead. The board, along with the service, will be developing and executing a biannual satisfaction survey for the people of Winnipeg to gauge community perceptions on policing. As well as developing the annual environmental report that speaks to the factors that influence the delivery of policing in Winnipeg. So subject to any questions, that's some of my activities for the last few months.
Seeing no questions, can I get a motion to receive the report of the executive director and secretary to the board? Daphne? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Then to item number 4, the Winnipeg Police Service 2025 fourth quarter financial report.
Good morning. Today I have the financial update for the 2025 year end for the Winnipeg Police Service. As indicated on page 5 of the report, revenue is over budget by 16.1 million and expenses were over budget by 14.5 million. There are a number of items that impact both categories, revenue and expense. The most notably being provincially funded initiatives, which generated $10.2 million of additional expenses, which are wholly offset by revenue. And the end result is that additional revenues exceeded additional expenses, and the service is under the budgeted mill rate by 1.7 million. The 2025 expenditure management target was $5 million. So that with the $1.7 million surplus was achieved as a result of a combination of things. There was salary and benefit savings in overtime, as well as positions being held vacant due to the long hiring process. We also had fuel and carbon tax savings, photo enforcement contract savings, and there were additional police services revenue and recoveries. With respect to the capital projects, which is on page 6 of the report, you'll note that there were a number of projects that were completed and there was significant progress on many projects. You'll see that some projects have little to no spend from a financial perspective. The percentages you see on the report are the spend and do not necessarily reflect the progress that are being made on these projects. A lot of work goes into projects of these size, so the project could be in planning stages, procurement stages. There's a lot of work that's done before funds are expended. Now that we're closing in on Q1 of 2026, we know that a number of the projects that had a high percentage spend at the end of 2025 will be closing in 2026. There are additional details which sit within the body of the report, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Councilor Mays.
As I was saying in 2022, when I interrupted myself by resigning, I always ask questions about the capital budget, so back to doing that again. There were 3 projects that were identified in our City Council approved infrastructure 2020 plan. There were only 3, I think, that pertain to the police service. So I don't need detail. I don't need much detail at all today, but I did want to just get an update on there was quite highly ranked the archives and exhibit building, then inevitably the indoor firing range, which has been in the news again lately, of course, indirectly. And one I don't remember, frankly, rapid response training facility, which was pretty far down the list. 2 of these at about 9 million, the firing range about 19 million. Any progress on these, or could we get some sort of update on these?
Yeah, these are unfunded. Yeah, we can give you. There has been different attempts to acquire some of these different items and address them. We can, give you a more fulsome update.
Yeah.
If you like another time. But yeah, there's been some. Obviously, we haven't obtained them, but there has been some work done on these items.
Yeah, I didn't see them in the open, so I figured it continues. So yeah, and I have no memory of what rapid response training facility was. So
I think that's active shooter training. Okay, I believe.
Active response training.
Thank you. Yeah, because these were of the 45 items on the list, there were only 3 that related to police services, and if we haven't done any of them, that would be telling.
Fair question to ask. So, Amit.
So the positions which you said which were left vacant, that's something which are you zoning in on that for the 2026? And do you have basically, is that something which is kind of planned? Are those critical?
So it's not that it's planned. The process of coming, it's generally the professional staff, so not the sworn officers. But so these positions, it takes the hiring process is lengthy with the background. And so what ended up happening, unfortunately, is that some of these positions stayed vacant for long periods of time while we roll through the background process and the whole hiring process. Sometimes jobs have to be posted a number of times. So the positions aren't being held vacant on purpose, but the backgrounding process, the long hiring process will contribute to these positions, unfortunately, staying vacant for longer than ideal.
Oh, sorry, so they were not officers, that's what.
It's not the officers, that's right.
Right. Thank you.
Has there been any indication from the province on the provincially funded initiatives? Will there be something in the upcoming budget? Have you heard anything about, will there be carryover? Will there be continuance? I'm sure you might not have heard new things, but what can you share if anything has been shared with you?
Well, I think there's continuance with those programs. Yeah, if there isn't, there's a clause there, through attrition that we would go down to, we would lose those positions, but, through attrition, not just leave gone.
Right, so there should be no financial impact to, if the funding it ceases for those initiatives, should be no financial impact to us. As Chief mentioned, those positions would be not filled through attrition. So we would essentially have a smaller recruit class.
Councillor Mead.
Thank you. On the capital again, these open capital projects, there are a couple that go back several years and they're showing 0% spent in-car computing 2020, 2021 automatic fingerprint identification system. And I wonder if you could just talk to us about that. I mean, for councillors, if we don't get capital money spent in a couple of years, we're told, oh, we're closing that out, and these hellish screaming matches occur between staff and the councillors. So I'm just, what's up with 5 years later if it's showing 0%?
So at our last meeting, I asked the same
Oh,
question, not
sure.
quite to the extent that you have extra background information, but I did ask Tara that. So do you want to provide that information?
Certainly. So, yeah, some of them could be somewhere in the procurement stages, but for those two particular projects that you've mentioned, Councillor, with the automated fingerprint identification system, that's actually being worked on as we speak. It's being implemented. We should see these monies spent sometime in Q1 or Q2 of 2026. So that is well underway. It just hasn't hit the books financially. And on in-car computing, of course, those ones are old. We've got two amounts there from 2019 and 2020, so they're getting old. And this has been delayed a number of times due to competing IT priorities. Technology is constantly changing, so we've got to redirect our resources sometimes. In this particular case, it had to do with the upgrade from Windows 11 to Office 365. And so that held things back for the in-car computing upgrades. I know right now that 10% of the total project scope has been completed, and they're expecting that project to wrap up completely with all spending by Q1 of 2027. Sounds like this month in March is when our folks will be meeting with different vendors to take a look at what is that going to look like.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So how often do you have meetings with the province? Like, is it on a quarterly basis?
I meet monthly, and then we meet, so monthly I meet with, the justice, people, and we talk about different initiatives that we're working on. We also, there's a number of different, avenues that we meet with the province, different, members of the executive meet, Ms. Nicholson meets with the province, talks to them probably daily, I would think hourly, when we're working on different collaboration projects and whatnot.
Especially when it comes to the funding piece, like what I'm trying to gather is, because when you speak to the province, is there, like, when you have to put a budget together, what you need, can we actually do that with a broader group of the MLAs rather than just meeting one department? Is that, do you think that would serve a bit better purpose?
Well, I guess a lot of it is operational. So it usually starts with an operational need, and then the discussions go, and then the province can speak to it. But and then the financial piece comes in, and at that time, I know the mayor, right? He's provincial part of that's his job, so he's made aware of those discussions.
Fair enough. Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
I always say this, but we'll be having a different conversation if we were negative. We're asking for money. This is the second year in a row we're returning money. It's surplus money after achieving our account and expenditure accounts. It's a big thing, and we try really hard to make sure we look after that account, but also we try to save as much money as we can. It's the city in a big picture for this money. So I also I shake my head sometimes, and sometimes when it's negative, we're in the big, requirements, we're, you know, we don't spend money. Well, it's a good news story, you know. And
It's like you read my mind, yes. You know, at the beginning, when you start this, everyone knows this, a budget is a snapshot in time. It's your prediction of what you think, what you know, you do your best plan. You have been asked to find some savings and you did that. You know, fortunately for us as a public, there haven't been, you know, you talked about your overtime savings, that need has not drawn for that. So from a safety component and society as a whole, that is good. Unfortunately, you're still reporting on homicides and things like that are happening, but next year could be different. And yes, it's been 2 years, but that's what budgets are for. And I want to commend you, Tara, and your team and the chief for really doing what was asked of you. And this is a I don't know if you want to call it a good news story. It is a good news story because anytime you have those savings, you've done what was expected. So appreciation for that. So if there's no further questions, can I get a motion to receive the report on the fourth quarter financial plan as information and that the report be forwarded to the Standing Policy Committee on Finance and Economic Development for information? Damon, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, we're going to move on to the Winnipeg Police Services 2025 fourth quarter business plan reporting.
All right, that's me.
Yes, it is.
All right, so I'm going to start with our downtown safety strategy. So WPS Foot Patrol unit total of 6,228 patrol hours in the downtown. So that's up more than 700 hours from Q3 and the highest of any quarter in 2025. The total foot patrol hours for the year were 19,604. The foot patrol attended 551 events in 2025 in the downtown area. And 293 individuals were diverted to social supports by our foot patrol members. And our members also conducted 1,132 hours in transit corridors and rides on city buses. Are there any questions on that? Hearing none. Our guns and gangs strategy. So WPS seized 165 firearms, including 19 handguns, 5 improvised guns, and 2 3D printed guns in this quarter. Just a note, prime guns seized in 2025 was 756, so that's up 6% from 2024. And then 2025, there was 2,235 calls for service involving real or perceived firearms, and that's down 14% from 2024. Non-fatal shootings were 93, and that's down 21% from 2024. And fatal shootings of 8, which is down 20% from 2024. So definitely that is in a good direction. The Manitoba Integrated Violent Offender Apprehension Unit. So they're very active this quarter, arresting 101 people. The unit provided support to several RCMP detachments, the Manitoba First Nations Police Service, the Calgary Police Service, the Toronto Police Fugitive Squad, and the U.S. Marshal Service. 6 of the arrest warrants executed by this unit in quarter 4 were for homicide, manslaughter, or accessory after the fact to murder. 83% of the arrests in quarter 4 were on bail, parole, or probation. And then 18 people were rearrested that this unit had already arrested and sent to the courts. So again, a lot of good work being done with that unit, which is integrated with the RCMP. And again, these are very violent offenders that they are putting into custody. I think I will go to speak. I'm going to speak to our alternative response to citizens in crisis, our ARC. This unit continues to reduce the demand on frontline resources by providing mental health assessments and other services to individuals involved in non-criminal, low-risk crisis calls. So ARC responded to 859 events in Q4. 40% of those calls responded by ARC were waiting in that dispatch. So which means that's 800 and some calls that our frontline members didn't have to attend to, which is again has an impact on the other types of calls that we're able to get to. The total for the year for this for ARC calls or events responded to was 3,483. So a significant number of calls, and these are calls that sometimes take need, for obvious reasons, we need to take our time with them and ensure that people are getting the right resources when they're requiring help. The ARC team also added a new mental health clinician, so it'll be a 24 hours a day response that we'll have now, and this clinician will be housed within our dispatch or within our 911 center, and we'll be going through different calls to see if there's a alternate response outside of the police that could help, or prioritizing the ones that are in the call to ensure that we're going to the most appropriate urgent calls. So they could divert to different to DCSP, mobile crisis as resources for people who are looking for help. So that again, I don't have any measures on that yet. That's just occurring. So that's something I think that's going to work well for us.
Well, I agree that level, that triaging is good, but I think I remember in reports past that some of the issue was with not necessarily from our side, but with the clinician, the mental health clinicians on the ground. There was some staffing where they didn't have enough numbers. Has that improved at all? Are there more people to go with, or you go with them, or they go with you to being able to help individuals at a ground level? I think what you mentioned about that clinician at the call center is great to help triage, but you need bodies out there to help manage some of those calls.
So there's not a lack of, my understanding, a lack of clinicians. It's a lack of members for us to put with the clinicians. So that's something that I know Kim may have a little more information on that we're working on.
So the province had announced funding to increase the clinician time to 24/7. And so that has occurred or is in process of finalizing the hires of those clinicians. But we don't have the resources on the other side to add the police members to make the team. So this is about how best to utilize those clinicians in order to expand on the work that they're already doing with respect to the call screening, and to see whether or not there are those opportunities to divert to non-police response. So of course, we still are there with the police and clinician teams to respond to calls for service where police are required. But this gives us an opportunity to be able to identify those calls at the outset where no police response is needed at all. And sometimes the clinicians are able to address the issues on the phone, as the chief noted, in tapping into DCSP, who has a mental health team on the ground now, as well as EPIC or mobile response.
And something we're also talking about is early on, and when I became chief, I indicated that ARC needs to go to those high risk calls as a support and a resource. That wasn't happening, and that is happening now. So there is the ability to either engage the clinician in the 911 center by phone by our members for a resource, or we could get them and bring them out to an incident as well. So it does give us some flexibility, definitely, to have that 24-hour resource. One more, and then you have a question?
No, I just see members are thinking and digesting your information, so no, go ahead.
Okay, maybe I'll just, one last one, the Indigenous Women and Girls Safety Strategy. So again, Q4, 27% of the counter exploitations units, street level and online interventions, where 34% of the counter exploitation investigations involved Indigenous women and girls. I do want to highlight that we worked with, our members worked in a joint project with the RCMP Human Trafficking Unit. And this led to members engaging with 75 different hotels in Winnipeg and the surrounding area, providing their staff with education on how to recognize human trafficking and the signs of that. They also worked on a project, the Counter Exploitation Unit, in an interprovincial investigation into trafficking of an Indigenous victim. The accused in this case will be entering, from what I understand, a plea for a 14-year sentence, which is very significant for these types of charges. So again, this exploited victim was procured from outside of our province and brought here and exploited here. Some significant charges on that front. And again, this is something that we will, I'll be talking about in the business plan. It still would be part of it, but definitely that's a focus of our service. So, and maybe just one other one is the training and professionalism. So Q4 saw a number of highlights for our talent acquisition. So in Q4, the unit attended the career development days at Southeast Collegiate, a local First Nations high school, intended for Indigenous youth from Northern Manitoba to pursue their grade 12 diploma. Members of the unit also visited First Nations University of Canada in Regina for career networking opportunities. This unit's been very successful in acquiring people from various backgrounds to become police officers with the Winnipeg Police. And Q4, just as an example, 70% of the new employees identify as Indigenous, racialized, or female. So again, I think that is we're continuing to work to make sure that we represent the public we serve, and definitely recruiting is a big part of that. So with that, Madam Chair, I think I will stop talking.
Any questions from committee members? Evan.
Thank you very much. Through you, Madam Chair. Chief, you had mentioned in the first couple of pages there in regards to hours deployed within Winnipeg Transit, only specific to the downtown area, in Q4 showing 192 hours. I'm assuming that number is?
Get there.
Page four, yeah. So my question being, how many other hours are being deployed throughout the rest of the city of Winnipeg for WPS on Winnipeg Transit?
So yeah, definitely there's other work being done on that. We have the transit project that was started some time ago, where our members are focusing in different areas of the city, namely Unicity, where we've had multiple
Horrific crimes taking place,
and
including a 5-year-old being struck with a baseball bat.
Yes. So our members have focused on that area as well. With this transit, it all a lot of it stems from that bus circle that's there. So again, I don't have the exact numbers. I can get it for you again, but definitely that has been a focus. And yes, that was a horrific crime that occurred there. And definitely we're well aware that there's some issues in that Unicity area, and some focus and attention will be turned to that area.
So if I may, Madam Chair, through you, what is the plan? What is the recommendation going to be made to council to have more presence of WPS on transit because it's not getting better clearly?
So again, that's a project that we initiated and we use when resources out of the different districts are available. So our community support units that can turn on overlap days as well, that we can put some focus on there. Again, that project will continue to be supported and engage with the community on that. It's again, when we talk about resources, there's finite resources. We are, and I was talking about the rapid response team, and the rapid response team will be another a unit that is flexible and can help with projects like this. Just the same as a retail theft, we put a lot of a retail theft initiative, a lot of resources, including at the Unicity Mall and other malls outside of the downtown in Winnipeg. So that's another initiative that we'll continue to engage with. So again, there's a number of things that are taking place and a number of resources that we can turn to in these issues.
Yeah, I appreciate that it's an initiative, not a full-time program. Would WPS forecast moving towards similar jurisdictions like Calgary where there in fact is transit police?
Again, I guess the WPS is open to any discussions with regard to transit policing. Again, that's something that would have to be funded either through the city or provincially perhaps. But again, that isn't the situation in Winnipeg. There's been other funding, and we have our safety officers that are on the buses and ride the buses initiative. So there is visibility there, although they're not police officers. But again, we don't have the members to put full-time members on the city buses as we're currently structured. Next question? Or
no, not so much a question, but more of a statement that Winnipeggers want to see WPS on buses so that they know that they're safe when they're riding to work and to the mall and to their house. Just a statement. Thank you, Madam Chair.
But again, that would be that'd have to have some discussion about resourcing.
Absolutely, it's an operating cost that would be significant, but I think that there needs to be a conversation. I'd like to see that conversation come to the forefront at some point in time.
I think we're always open to discussion. It was discussed a few years ago to look at that option, and the city chose another option, but we're always open to talking about it with the statement that it would be additional people. It won't be what we have now. It would be definitely an additional people.
Thank you.
Brian?
And picking that one, and
Sorry, Matt. No, sorry.
No, go ahead.
oh, sorry.
No, I jumped, but that's fine.
There was a long-standing grievance from WPA, I think, in relation to that, but that got resolved.
Yes.
And then the legislative change kind of overran that, I think. Okay.
I apologize.
Oh, no problem. Just like Calgary Police, I believe in Vancouver has a transit police. So all I'm saying is that maybe we can take some studies back from them and see how we can implement that within our network, right? So I brought this up before, like if you don't have police officers, could cadets play a kind of a role out here? They could come in and get into
anything, again, that's a negotiated with the WPA. But just to, if you want, since we're talking about Calgary, and we're talking about budget, it's timely. Calgary's asked for 250 million more in their budget.
But if we know that this is actually an issue now, we were plus, right? So we gave money back to the city. So is that something we can actually plug in? And if it's not the cadets, maybe have somebody else who could be pretty active on this, because I remember just on Chancellor, there's a bus terminal which was not that well lit or something, and there was a stabbing of a young girl there. This was about a couple of years back, right? So we have to keep one thing mindful, that these terminals are kind of safe, proper.
I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, Chief, but this is a conversation. The Winnipeg Police Service does sit at a table, does have conversations. It's something that we can talk about further, but this is not just the WPS. There is other levels of government that need to come together with commitments. And I think very clearly, if it's not being heard outside this room today, it has been heard now officially. But I am sure that all parties know the province has a budget coming forward. We're not sure what's coming in. The mayor is aware. I'm suspecting that members of APC or SIP there are having those conversations as well. So perhaps you can just put that on your notepad to continue to work with, and we'll wait to hear further information from you on that. So,
thank you.
Daphne.
So another point of interest on this particular subject was there was a community safety team developed by the city of Winnipeg to patrol buses. So I think some of this line of questioning also needs to be placed in that direction as well. Not saying that there isn't a responsibility for police, but there is taxpayer dollars going to an initiative that is to deal with this very thing. So I would be interested in hearing that too.
Yeah.
Because it's always easy in retrospect to begin to analyze and reanalyze, and mental health plays a significant role in this too. Addictions, all of those things. And we are fast to look at reactive, but not fast to look at how do you prevent. So I think there's a lot of strategies that we as a board can start to look to advocate for, and recognizing the role that we have in the response to those pieces. But I think this is a much bigger conversation than just the board and police. I think it's a city conversation, and I think we need to have it.
Yeah, and I think from our perspective, I've asked our executive director to note that so we can get our perspectives down and talk about it further from there. Yeah. So thank you.
Thanks.
One thing is,
Sorry.
it's lots of history on this.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing no further questions, can I get a motion to receive the report on the fourth quarter business plan as information? Amit, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, flipping to current day, the 2026 business plan report.
Very excited to present today's 2026 business plan. So there's a number of core objectives that we'll continue to address in our business plan. But today, we can talk to the other ones, but I think just in recognition of time and whatnot, I'll speak to the new business plan items, or realigned business plan. So in our protect the safety and security of our community, the bail compliance is new. And earlier this week, along with the Minister of Justice and Deputy Chief Cam McKidd, announced the launch of the new provincially funded bail compliance unit. So this is a 12-member unit that's responsible for monitoring individuals who have been released on conditions, both youth and adult, and that are we look at the people who pose a risk to public safety, and to ensure that the idea is to ensure that they're complying with their conditions, and if not, then they are brought back into custody. We've built our own internal, database to manage this, because it is quite large, to ensure that we are focusing on the most people that are most at risk to violate their conditions or cause a public safety issue in our community. In any respect, it's been early on, but 1/3 of the compliance checks have resulted in an arrest thus far. So again, it's fairly, very early on. I don't know if you want to just I can take questions on this now if there are any.
I don't see any. Carry on.
Good. So building community relationships and advancing reconciliation. So again, this is new. One of the most significant changes from the previous year's business plan is the addition of this item. The objective is close to my heart and reflects the commitment I've made to weave reconciliation through the service. And with the guidance and advice of Sheila North, we've established service-wide goals and philosophy to guide our relationship with Winnipeg's Indigenous community. So, and this is utilizing a number of different the calls for justice, UNDRIP, the AJI, all these different recommendations that really are, I think the answers are there. We just need to activate them. So that is what we're looking to do, and taking those proactive steps to ensure that everybody in our city, including Indigenous people, are safe. Any questions on that?
Not so much a question. So, anybody paying attention to the newer federal budget released in November, I think. Current Prime Minister and his cabinet moved forward with cuts in Indigenous Services Canada, in particular to the urban programming. So this was a really backwards decision. 82% of all Indigenous people now live off reserves. 82%. Winnipeg is ground zero. 1 out of every 7 Indigenous Canadians lives in this city and province. The issues that many of the issues that the police service has to deal with related to members of our community are historic in their origin. And much of it relates to intergenerational trauma, and which creates mental health issues in and of itself. In fact, I don't know that there's such thing as a healthy Indigenous person in this country. Even our children born every day, and we have the highest birth rate in the city, will begin to endure racism and discrimination and other forms of mistreatment throughout their life. Now, we are often subject to decisions made by governments without any real engagement with us. So these cuts were just decided and implemented, and sad to say, suggests that things are only going to get worse. As you know, my work, I work out of inner city, and I see a lot of activity on the streets. And then there's overall, there's the database related to Indigenous activities is nowhere near where it needs to be. And then the other part of that, we talk about truth and reconciliation and Indigenous self-determination and self-government. And yet we don't have the modern day tools within our community to address any of these issues in a better way. And part of our community that I work with is known as the Indigenous Charitable Not-for-Profit Sector. It began in Winnipeg in 1958, that arguably with the establishment of one of the first friendship centers in Canada. Now, almost 70 years later, it's grown to 32 organizations that are represented in the Winnipeg Indigenous Executive Circle. Now, the last thing I'll say is again, the federal government appears to continually fail us. We went through a process with the Indigenous Services Department to evaluate the only urban program that they have called the UPIP, Urban Programming for Indigenous Peoples. Now that's been cut. This year, the only organizations, the new fiscal year, beginning April 1st, the only organizations that will be funded out of that program are the Friendship Centers. For the rest of us, the other 31 members of the Indigenous Circle will get no urban funding out of that program, including our coalition itself. So, as a 78-year-old Indigenous leader in this community with 50 years of service, I'm incredibly frustrated with the failure, principally of governments, to work together in more effective ways with Indigenous people. And there needs to be a lot more real engagement with us. We've developed many good solutions in this city. Every day we're delivering these programs. For example, the Aboriginal Health and Wellness Center. We negotiated with the WHA to put 2 mobile clinics on the streets for our people that are homeless, suffering from mental addictions, alcohol addictions, etc. But there's still no correlation between supply and demand. On the homeless file alone, we represent 75% of the individuals who are homeless in this city. And even that number is questionable. So anyways, I'd stop there, but I just think that this mayor and this council and our provincial government, our premier and our cabinet, you work more closely with the federal government. And I'm recommending that they will develop a national urban indigenous strategy for this country and this province. Because it's just, in my own estimations, it's just not getting better. And we don't have the resources in our community. We're still overly dependent on funding from governments to do the things we need to do. Some of that's changing for the better slowly, but a long way to go. So I'll just stop there. Just wanted that on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Damon. I commend you for your 50+ years of being a voice in the community and reminding us, of where we need to go and how we can, even if our own lives or in the work we do, how that carries through that thread to do better. So thank you for that. Seeing no further questions or anything else to report, can I get a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, did I cut you off? yeah, you did. I apologize. Sorry, I thought you were, okay, carry on.
Thank you for your comments. Just two more items that are new. So the rapid response. So you'll see this in the new plan. So later this year, the rapid response unit. Again, I mentioned this. It's going to be almost a 40-person unit, and it's going to be a flex unit that we can, when we have some issues that we want to get some extra resources in, we can do that. But also they're there to go to some of these parades. Again, I know there is some. I think there are looking at some bylaw changes as far as parades and who can, the police right now we're the only lawful agency that can go there for safety, but I know there's some work being done there. But this unit will take some of that burden off our community support units and our front lines. So our front lines can do the front line community support. I really want them more, really into the community, working on the issues like the unit cities, different neighborhood problems that they are actually helping to be problem solvers. So that's the idea of this unit. I'm really excited about it. There are some other jurisdictions in North America that have similar units and they've been very successful. So that's new. Also our technological innovation. So again, I spoke to this, that, technology is something that as a WPS, we're going to leverage where we can. And utilize with the hope of creating accountability and greater efficiency within our service. And the one last thing is the member health and wellness. And again, the health and well-being is always the forefront of our minds with our members. Our members are our biggest asset, right? Without a healthy organization, we can't police the city as well as we could. So we have to make sure our members are taken care of, and we're taking strides, a number of strides, and I've mentioned some of them. So I won't go on, but it is a significant something that we want to track and make sure that we're continuing on with. And then the training and professionalism and accountability. I spoke to the accountability piece, and I also to the, our training. We are guided by WIA, which is an international organization for best practices in law enforcement. That that has taken us a long way to remain current and up to date with best practices overall our entire organization. So again, the training, professionalism, accountability is another one you'll see in our new business plan. So with that, I can take some questions.
Are there any questions from committee members? Seeing nothing further, we look forward to the ongoing rollout and presentation to the board about where things are going with this. So thank you for that. Can I get a motion to receive the report of the Winnipeg Police Service 2026 business plan as information? Councillor Mays, all those in favor? Carried. Now we're moving on to.
May I? Sorry, I just have to go. So, thank you.
Number 7, the Winnipeg Police Board 2026 business plan.
Yes,
Over to you.
the board's business plan was developed pursuant to a direction from the board in 2025, along with the strategic planning process for a plan to guide the board's operations for the year. So this has been developed with Daphne's help as she led the strategic planning process to reduce all of the various policy requirements that are on the board into a sort of as straightforward as possible guide on steps the board can undertake to achieve its role for the year. This is something that the board had developed and utilized in its early years of operations, I think until about 2017, and then it drifted off, and so it's back now. The priorities and the key areas identified in the plan are those that are sort of set out in legislation for the board. So governance, policy and procedure, budget and risk management, evaluation of the implementation of the service's strategic plan, and then being the link between the community and the police service. So there's specified activities under each of those headings and assigned ownership committees from within the board. Happy to take any questions. This is, the board has reviewed this in advance. So,
No further questions. Can I get a motion to adopt and approve the report of the Winnipeg Police Board 2026 business plan, and that it be approved for publication on its website? Councillor Duncan, all those in favor? Carried. And back to you regarding the 2025 fourth quarter budget update.
So year-end budget update for the board's budget, notwithstanding some higher than anticipated expenses earlier in the year regarding professional services. The board ended with a $2,474 surplus that is returned to the city. We are required by council by law to forward this report to the Standing Policy Committee on Finance for council's information.
Everybody doing their part, maybe not 2 million, but we all take it where we can provide it. So are there any questions? No. So be it resolved that the Winnipeg Police Board submits for information the Winnipeg Police Board fourth quarter budget update and report the recommendations that the report be forwarded to the Standing Policy Committee on Finance and Economic Development for information. Can I get a mover? Damon? All those in favor? Carried. And then back to you.
9 is me as well. So this is the allocation of the 2026 Winnipeg Police Service budget. This is a requirement under the Police Services Act that the board allocates the budget the council approved. So at the last public meeting of the board recommended a budget proposal to council. Council approved that on December 18th, I believe, December 17th or 18th. So it's now back in the hands of the board to allocate. The attachment that's there on the agenda is provided by the service of a breakdown of projected expenses based on their operational lines.
Is there anything further from the service? No, nothing presented? Any?
I always had trouble with this. The last time, I won't get into it today, but perhaps before our next meeting, I can
Absolutely.
talk to our staff about this.
Fair enough. We are always talking and educating ourselves and getting our heads wrapped around, so that's great. That's amazing. Can I get a motion to approve the report of the Winnipeg Police Service 2026 Revenue and Expense Summary Report? Councilor Mays, all those in favor? Carried. And that concludes our meeting. Everyone have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you again on,
For German, John.
we will see you on June 5th. And can I get someone to move for adjournment? Thank you. Oh,